Thursday, February 6th, 2014, and you know what that means. It's my favorite day of the week, Metaphysical Thursday here on Fire Your MD Now, where we talk about all things having to do with the unseen. That stuff about life that adds substance and flavor to life. Things like love is a metaphysical phenomenon. Thought, the very nature of thought itself is a metaphysical phenomenon. Birth, death, the existence of the soul or the spirit, God. If you believe in God, you are a practicing metaphysician. It seems that the most important things in life, the most valued things in life, the things in life that make life worth living, exist inside the domain of metaphysics, and yet the Western world in which we've grown up in, Western science, which we have been indoctrinated with for the last 100, 200, 300 years, has dominated the collective consciousness so much that the average person is left with very little understanding of what's really going on here in the wonderful world of life. And this couldn't be more salient than in the way that the MD views the world. The MD is trained to only believe that which can be measured, only that which can be codified, only that which can be seen, touched, heard, smelt, and felt. Since nobody's ever dissected the soul out of the human body, since the existence of the vital force or consciousness itself has never been proven, to the MD they don't exist, and therefore they can have nothing to do with the workings of the human body or the failures thereof. Well, as a matter of fact, the existence of the spiritual vital force is a fundamental fact which unites all holistic schools of thought. All holistic schools of thought have one thing in common. Well, two things in common. They all believe that the body is imbued with divine intelligence, that the body has some type of spiritual essence, some type of vital force which is keeping the whole show running, and that vital force, that spiritual essence, delivers to the body divine intelligence, a God-given intelligence, through which the body orchestrates all of its workings. Now, virtually every school of thought, well, every school of medical thought that I'm aware of, except what the MDs are trained in. The MDs are trained in allopathic medicine. Allopathic medicine is reductionistic. Every other type of medicine on the planet is holistic. And today we're going to take a deep drink from the well of homeopathy. Homeopathy is an excellent example of the relationship between metaphysics and physics. It is homeopathic medicine delivers to the world a very sophisticated, cogent, and tangible understanding of the reality, the truth of human existence. That, in fact, the human body is endowed with a vital force, and the vital force has an intimate relationship with health and disease. By understanding homeopathy, we gain insight into the world, and by gaining insight into the world, we take a long step down the road of deliverance from human suffering. Now, homeopathy is a separate and distinct system of medicine. It's over 200 years old. It started in Germany in the 1800s. Samuel Frederick Christian Hahnemann was the founder of homeopathy. And homeopathic medicine is based on five fundamental laws. Five fundamental laws. The one law of homeopathy that the MDs get stuck on all of the time is the law of potentization, the law of actually how the medicines are made. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the law of similars, which is the very thing that separates homeopathic medical thought from all other schools of medical thought. Homeopaths, oh, by the way, in the United States, before the infamous Flexner Report of the 1920s that gave the MDs monopolistic control over the delivery of medicine in the United States, there were over 20 homeopathic medical schools and hundreds of homeopathic hospitals. Within 10 years of the Flexner Report, once the MDs flexed their muscles and shoved everybody else off of the bus of medicine, off of the train of medicine, the last pure homeopathic medical school closed its doors. And these are at prominent universities, Tufts, Boston University. The last pure homeopathic medical school closed 10 years after the MDs asserted their dominance in the medical marketplace, and we've been suffering from that loss ever since. Now, the fundamental distinction that homeopaths bring to the world is their belief in something called the law of similars. To a practicing homeopath, when somebody is in a state of health, their body exists in something called dynamic equipoise. Dynamic equipoise. That means their body is in a state of balance, dynamic balance. When somebody is healthy, they are symptom-free. When the shoe fits, you do not wear it. So when your lungs are healthy, you don't have any lung symptoms. When your heart is healthy, you don't have any heart symptoms. When your bones and joints are healthy, you don't have any bone and joint symptoms, and so forth and so on. Now, when we march down the road of life, we experience the stressors of life, of which there are multitudinous variations. Life, as it turns out, is a great big bowl of stress. When the human body experiences a stress that it can handle, the stress impacts the body, creates a little ripple, but then the body fights it off, bounces back, and equipoise is recovered. Homeostasis, balance, is not upset. However, when the human body experiences a stress that is too much for it to handle, the human body becomes destabilized, figuratively speaking, by the stress. It becomes knocked off of balance. Figuratively speaking, it loses its equipoise, and a symptom is born. So when you experience a symptom that's stress that's too great for the body to handle, the body generates a symptom. Maybe it's a lung symptom. Maybe it's a heart symptom. Maybe it's a bone and joint symptom. Maybe it's a stomach symptom. Who knows what? Why different people develop different symptoms is a subject of much sophistication that we just do not have the ability at this point in time to ascertain. But more important to the point is the fact that a symptom, whatever it is, by its very existence, is a reflection that the body is in trouble. It's like the warning light, the check engine light coming on in the dashboard of your body. The body cannot have a symptom if it is in a state of health and dynamic balance. So, the manifestation of the symptom to a homeopath is everything. The details of the symptom to the homeopath are everything. Because to the homeopath, the details of the symptom hold the keys to the cure. Why? By virtue of something called the law of similars. Homeopathy believes that when you deliver to a sick person a medicine which, when given to a healthy person, and it produces exactly the same symptoms that the sick person is suffering from, the medicine will exert healing influence on the body and push the body back into a state of homeostasis. It's kind of like vaccination. It's kind of like the way that Western scientists believe that vaccinations work. Kind of, sort of, but not really. It's much more sophisticated than that. So, if you had a headache that felt to you like your head was being squeezed between a vice, and you went to a homeopath, the homeopath would deliver to you a medicine which, when given to a healthy person, produced the symptom that their head was being squeezed in a vice, which is different, by the way, than a headache which feels like the head is exploding. Or a headache that feels like someone's hammering a spike into the top of your head. Or a headache that feels like your eye is being sucked into the back of your head. Or whatever. The details of the symptomology to the practicing homeopath are everything, because they hold the key to the cure. As an example, let's say that a person's suffering from migraine headaches, a person suffering from migraines. They go to their MD for help. The office visit lasts 10 minutes. The patient spends about 2 minutes with the doctor, 8 minutes with the nurse. After listening to a brief description by the patient of what's going on, the MD comes up with a diagnosis of migraine headaches, and a generic medication, usually Fiorinol, is given. If that MD saw 100 migraine patients in 1 week, they would all get Fiorinol. The patient takes the drug, and it helps to manage the pain, but in a few days, the pain comes back, and a stronger strength Fiorinol is given. This continues for 6 months, with the drug helping to shorten the intensity and duration of the attacks, but every few weeks, the dose has to be increased, and the migraines keep on coming. Eventually, the Fiorinol fails to work, and over the course of 3 years, the patient is put on 3 different pain medications, all which fail to cure the illness. Eventually, the migraine sufferer gets fed up with the ineffective drug treatments and goes to his friendly neighborhood homeopath for help if he can find one. The visit with the homeopath lasts 1.5 hours. The homeopath takes an in-depth symptom inventory by asking the patient detailed-oriented questions about the headache. Questions like, where in your head do you feel the pain? Is it in the front of the head, the sides, or the back? Does it hurt on one side more than the other? What does it feel like? Is it pounding? Is it throbbing? Is it sharp? Is it dull? Is it ripping? Is it tearing? What does it feel like? Does the pain stay in one spot, or does it shift around? When does the pain happen? How long does it last? Is there a predictable pattern to the onset of the attacks? What makes the pain feel better? What makes the pain feel worse? Etc., etc., etc. The homeopath is not asking these questions to placate the patient nor to engender the patient's trust. He's asking these because to the homeopath, the way that the body expresses its symptoms hold the key to the cure. More to come on Metaphysical Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is Fire Your MD Now. Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here on Metaphysical Thursday. Today is February 6th, 2014. February 6th, 2014. Now, we're talking about metaphysics in relationship to medicine, because from our point of view, metaphysics is true and correct. That the human body is imbued and endowed with a vital force that's unseen and that can't be measured, and that consciousness itself, the vital force of your body itself, is by definition a metaphysical phenomenon that the MDs have completely thrown out. They've thrown the baby out with the bathwater in not recognizing this phenomenon, and that's one of the reasons why their therapeutics are so stilted. Now, there are hundreds of systems of holistic medicine all around the planet which are congruent with their understanding of holism. And that's why holistic medicine gets such remarkable results, because holistic medicine is a reflection of truth and reality. Allopathic reductionism is not. Now, we're talking about homeopathy here and the relationship between the symptoms of the illness and the cure. Okay? Now, the homeopath is not asking the patient all of these intricate details about their symptoms to engender trust in the patient. They're asking these questions to get a clue to the cure, the curative treatment. And in homeopathic parlance, the remedy that hits the bullseye is called the simillimum. So, for example, right, when Sherlock Holmes examined a crime scene, all of the minute details were important to him. Just as sometimes it was the cigarette ash under the kitchen table that held the key to solving the crime for Holmes, sometimes in a patient, it's a particular symptom expressed by the patient that holds the key to the cure for the homeopath. So, here's an example of what a patient suffering from migraine headaches may say to a homeopathic physician upon questioning from the homeopath. Doc, I get these sharp stabbing pains over my left eye. The attacks happen about once every 2 weeks, and I'm really worried about something or somebody. They can happen then, too. They can last all day. Sometimes the pains feel like they go backwards into my brain, but mostly I just feel them over my left eye. The skin of my face around my left eye gets really sensitive during the attacks, and I don't want anything or anyone to touch me there. Sometimes the pain feels better if I put a cold towel on my forehead, but I don't like to do this because when I take the towel off, the pain always gets worse. Often I'll get dizzy right before the pains happen, and the dizziness is made 10 times worse if I look down at the ground. I don't know why that happens, but it does. If I lie on the left side of my body, the pain gets much worse also. And so I hope the pain attacks, the headaches don't happen at night because I prefer to sleep on the left side of my body at night. The only other thing that helps me to deal with the pain is if I lie perfectly still. All of this started 4 years ago, about a month after my mom was diagnosed with cancer. I worry about her too much, I know, but I just can't help it. Now, when was the last time you ever had a conversation like that with a medical doctor? Never. Because your medical doctor is not concerned with the details of the symptom. Your medical doctor does not believe that your body has the ability to fix itself. Your medical doctor is only trained to deliver drugs to suppress symptoms. That's it. And then to cut stuff out once they've failed in their therapeutic attempts to fix stuff, but they never fix stuff. They only manage stuff. Now, this is interesting because it speaks to the very fundamental foundation of homeopathic medicine, which is called the law of similars. The law of similars believes that when you give to somebody a medicine which produces exactly the same symptoms in a healthy person, then by virtue of something called the law of similars, the pain, the homeostasis of the body is returned and the patient is brought back immediately into a state of health. Oh, by the way, in the case of that particular migraine sufferer, I had a patient like that. This was extracted from one of my patient files from years ago. The particular medicine that person needed in order to get over the migraine headaches was Spigelia anthelmica. Spigelia anthelmica. It's an herbal medicine. A homeopathic medicine prepared from an herb, and when you deliver that homeopathic medicinal preparation to a healthy person, it produces exactly those sets of symptoms. Exactly those sets of symptoms. This is why in homeopathy, you have to hit the bullseye with the prescription. There's no such thing as a homeopathic medicine for pneumonia. You could have identical quintuplets, all with pneumonia. They could have given it to each other. And it's entirely possible that from a homeopathic point of view, they would each need a different medicine to recover. It's fascinating, and it gets better. Stick around. We're going to finish this off when we come back and then hit the phones. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is Fire Your MD Now. So let's review here. When a homeopath is speaking to a patient, the homeopath pays particular detail to the symptoms that the patient is experiencing, because the homeopath believes that the symptom expression of the illness is an acute reflection of the vital force of the human body and gives information as to the keys to the cure for that particular ailment. It gives the homeopath information as to what they can do to push the body back into a state of homeostasis and equipoise. Now, in that instance of the migraine headache, the medicine that was used was a homeopathic preparation of an herb called Spigelia anthelmia. The common name of that is pink root. It's called pink root. However, if you just dug up some Spigelia, made a tea out of it, and drank it, it wouldn't work because it has to be prepared homeopathically. It's kind of like, well, potatoes and vodka have very different effects on the body, but you can make vodka from potatoes, right? But they have very different effects on the body. Well, when you take an herbal medicine in this case, in order for it to be able to activate the law of similars, it has to be prepared homeopathically. And that's a conversation for an entirely different day. Now, the law of similars is fascinating, and it works when it is applied exactly, but nobody knows how it works. The mechanism behind the law of similars is a mystery. You know, there are parallels that are drawn in the world of physics, but nobody has really dialed in the exact mechanism behind the law of similars, and the MDs dismiss it, of course, as fantasy. I remember an experiment in high school, in my high school physics class. there was a big tray that had water in it, about 1.5 inches of water, and it was a clear glass acrylic tray, and the professor put the tray on an overhead projector, and he projected the picture of the water up onto the screen. And then he took 2 weights of equal measure, 2 fishing sinkers, I think, maybe 2 or 3 ounce weights, and he dropped one weight into the end of the pool, and he dropped the other weight into the end at the other end of the tank. Because the weights were the same weight, and because they were dropped into the water from the same height, they created waves in the tank which were the same wavelength and the same height and the same frequency. They were exactly the same waveforms. Now, the waves rushed towards each other in the middle of the tank. And there's a lot of turbulence in the tank, and you can see it right there on the screen. But when the waves of exact height met in the middle of the tank, they canceled each other out, and there was a flat, calm space in the middle of the tank. Blew my mind. This, by the way, is the same technology that the noise-canceling headphones that you see everybody wearing on the planes. It's the same technology that the noise-canceling headphones are based upon, and it is perhaps an indication of why the law of similars works, but nobody knows for sure, and it needs to be figured out. But medicine isn't going to go that way, because medicine doesn't want to have anything to do with anything other than pharmaceutical drugs. We do know for sure that when we perfect and hit the bullseye with the homeopathic medicine, remarkable things happen. I'm going to finish today's segment with an excerpt from a book. It's called Testimony of the Clinic by E.B. Nash. He was a prominent 19th century homeopath. He was kind of like the Albert Einstein of homeopathy. E.B. Nash was a very, very successful homeopath. And this is a word-by-word account of Dr. Nash's experience with a very sick patient and homeopathy. And it's fascinating. And I'm going to read it here for you on Metaphysical Thursday. A boy of 13, becoming overheated while roller skating, sat down on a curb stone to cool off. A severe head cold resulted, with general aching. Next, rheumatism of the knees and ankles developed, which became much worse when he moved. The next day, the pain had left the legs and attacked the shoulders and the arms. From that point, it flew back to the feet, which began to swell. He had received 3 different homeopathic medicines, according to the symptoms, but at this point I was confined myself to my home for some days and had to rely upon the reports of his parents, which were vague and indefinite. So Nash was getting a symptom report not from the patient himself, but secondhand through his parents, and it wasn't enough for him to hit the bullseye with his homeopathic medicine. They now reported that while the feet continued to swell, the rheumatism was gone, but now he had pain in his chest. It hurt him to breathe. It was impossible for him to take a long breath. I gave 2 different homeopathic medicines upon their representation without good results. The boy grew worse. On the 6th day, the mother reported that the boy was so weak that he could barely speak. I cross-questioned her very closely. Among other things, I asked, lying upon which side made the pain worse? "Oh," exclaimed the poor woman, "I forgot to tell you. He can't lie down at all. He hasn't laid down for 5 nights. We have him in a Morris chair. He sits bent forward all night with his head resting in a chin strap made of towels." Nash says a light broke upon me. Then I knew it was not mere pleurisy I had to deal with, but rheumatism of the heart. I rushed to his home. As I entered the room, I was shocked at the pitiful change in the child since I had seen him 6 days before. The labored gasps for breath could be heard outside the door. The little figure sat bent forward in the Morris chair, face blue, cyanotic, swollen, feet and ankles swollen as big as watermelons. But the thing that struck me most as I entered was the terrific visible throbbing of the veins in the neck, the carotid arteries, which could be seen from entirely across the room. It was with great difficulty that I could examine his heart. He could not endure the least touch, and at each attempt he gasped, "Oh, doctor, give me just a little more time." I finally made out a muffled, tumultuous heart sound, as if it was beating underwater. His temperature was 103, yet there was a great deal of perspiration, urine very scant, no thirst, no appetite. He'd only slept short naps for many nights. I feared the boy was dying. There was a time when I would have treated the heart symptoms with one remedy, and the dropsy, the swelling in the legs, with a different remedy, and whatnot, and so zigzagged to a slow cure or a speedy death. But fortunately, I knew better. I knew that every one of this boy's symptoms are summed up under one remedy and covers every point exactly. I gave the boy a dose of homeopathic Aurum, one dose in the 10x strength to be given every 3 hours. In this case, Aurum, of course, was the bullseye remedy finally discovered by Nash upon acute observation of the patient. And I'll tell you what it's made from in a minute. Nash continues, I never saw a more brilliant cure. The first dose was at 7 p.m. I requested that they phone me at 11 p.m. that night. At 11, the message came. Lewis is in a drenching perspiration. He has urinated quantities, and his breathing is less labored. At 8 o'clock the next morning, they phoned that he'd slept peacefully most of the night, though still in his upright position with chin strap. That night he could recline in the chair, and the next he could lie down in bed. The urine continued in unbelievable quantities. The perspiration rained from him now, and the swelling promptly disappeared. You see what a profound element gold is when homeopathically indicated. The medicine that was the bullseye, the medicine that stimulated the law of similars, was homeopathically prepared gold. The lad made a rapid and complete recovery with no other medication. He received the first few doses in the 10x strength, then the 30th, and then the 200th. These are all different strengths of the same medicine, which I kept him on until the poor, damaged little heart was quite normal again. End quote. Now this is remarkable, and this happened in the 1800s. A boy, small boy, on his deathbed, recovered completely. No medical nutrition, no chiropractic adjustment, no herbal medicine, no acupuncture, no synthetic medicine delivered by the MD, no surgery, only homeopathically prepared gold, which was the bullseye. And this wasn't a placebo, because the child had received 5 other homeopathic medicines, all of which failed to work because none of them were the bullseye. Now, you have to think to yourself, if homeopathy could do this in the 1800s, what could it do now with all of the understanding and the computer technology that we have? What could it do now? Well, sadly, the world is not going to know, because the Flexner Report kicked the homeopaths off the bus of medicine. The last pure homeopathic medical school closed in the early 1900s. The chiropractors have fought back, the naturopaths have fought back, the osteopaths have fought back, acupuncturists have fought back, but the homeopathic medical profession has fallen into disarray. The homeopathic medicine ceased, the homeopathic medical practice ceased to exist after the Flexner Report. The only place that homeopathic medicine is taught now as part of a licensed, regulated medical school, in a licensed, accredited medical school, is at the colleges of naturopathic medicine, of which I am a card-carrying member. It's naturopathy which is holding the standard now for homeopathy. It's the naturopathic medical profession which has secured the future of homeopathy. And we have the naturopaths to thank for that, specifically Dr. Joe Pizzorno, who's one of the main reasons that naturopathy survives into this day. And we're going to interview Dr. Joe Pizzorno coming up in March. We're going to interview a lot of naturopathic luminaries and homeopathic luminaries over the next 6 months. We're going to really take a big, deep drink from the well of holistic wisdom here as we move forward. But my point here is the reason that homeopathy is able to produce such remarkable, unbelievable assistance to the sick and suffering is because it is prescribed with an understanding of the vital force of the human body, which is a manifestation of the metaphysical nature of the human being. Your body is not just an amalgamation of biochemicals. Your body is not just tissue and blood and whatever. Your body is endowed with a God-given vital force that regulates all of its affairs. There's stuff going on here which is beyond our ken, but we can come close to it. We can get a purchase on it. We can touch the hem of that garment if we're sophisticated and we just open our eyes, like the homeopath did and do. Ladies and gentlemen, there is much more to the world than is dreamt of in the philosophy of the MDs. And I encourage you to just take a look around and ask yourself, well, I'm 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old now, and how has all of that time under the care of the MDs, how has that worked for me? How's my health now? How's my state of equipoise and balance, and how many symptoms am I laboring through each and every day? You sick and tired of being sick and tired? You've come to exactly the right place. This is Fire Your MD Now. This is the holistic well of sweet water where the smart and open-minded come to get a little information to ease their pain and suffering. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, your steadfast advocate for health, welcoming you to another live edition of Fire Your MD Now. Going to Florida when we come back. Stick around. People tell me all the time, well, not all the time, but some of the time, Doc, you're too hard on the MDs. You got to lighten up. You should change the name of your show. You shouldn't take such a hard line on the MDs. Well, look. They tried to make extinct an entire profession of medicine. They tried to drive the homeopaths into the dirt, and they would have succeeded had it not been for the naturopathic medical profession. They tried to exterminate an entire branch of medicine that produced remarkable results. They tried to exterminate them because they were in direct financial competition with them. Listen. Somebody's got to be the bad cop. And I'm here, Huckleberry. And that's just my game. Let's go to Florida and see what Casey's up to. Hey, Casey. Thanks for the phone call. You are live.
Hey, good afternoon, Dr. Glidden. How's it going?
Well, I'm good, but I'll get better, man. I'm jealous of you in Florida. It's like 6 degrees again here in Central Plains, man. What's going on in Florida?
It's kind of rainy and gloomy, but at least it's not -6 or 6 or whatever.
So thanks for the call, Casey. How can I help?
I'm out here in Chevy Nation. I got a couple clients, and I want to see if you could dial them in for me.
All right, I'm sitting down. Let's go.
Okay, the first one, she is experiencing, and it's been shown through sonogram, an enlarged uterus with fibroids. She also has bloating, heart palpitations. She's lethargic and experiencing weight loss. And I see some pre-diabetic stuff going on where, after she eats a large meal, she gets tired and she wakes up in the middle of the night.
Well, so how's Western medicine working for her, right? Not so great.
Well, she works in Western medicine. She's actually a nurse. So.
Wow. Well, one of life's great ironies. I'll talk about nurses at the top of the next hour. We love nurses, and there's a very interesting distinction between nurses and doctors that's lost on most people. I want to address that in the top of the next hour. But because of our time concerns here, uterine fibroids, from our point of view, are caused by oxidative damage to the uterus. So she needs to stop eating the 10 bad foods, because those are all free radical donors. And she needs to eat food that's high in antioxidants, right? Her ORAC intake between food and supplements needs to be between 50 and 100,000 ORAC of antioxidants a day. That's the goal that she should try to hit every day, the target that she should try to hit, 50,000 to 100,000 ORAC of antioxidants a day. Now, an easy way to kind of get a little bit there is with the Anti-Aging Healthy Start Pack in selenium. So I would give her the one Anti-Aging Healthy Start Pack, 2 selenium, and 1 bottle of Sweeties per 100 pounds of body weight per month. 1 anti-aging healthy start pack, 2 selenium, and 1 Sweeties per 100 pounds of body weight per month, and encourage her to educate herself about antioxidants. Send her a link to the video that I did, or if you're an insider, you can send her a link to my antioxidant webinar, right? And so she can educate herself about how she can change her diet proactively. Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. What about the second person?
The second person has had her gallbladder removed. She's also had a hysterectomy, and now she's getting stones in her common bile duct, and she's actually passing them, but every time she passes them, she gets a fever and that kind of symptoms, and she knocks it down with silver and propolis.
Yeah, that's interesting.
She's currently taking Ultimate Enzymes, stone-free, and apple juice with apple cider vinegar, and she doesn't want to go to the MDs and get the scope done. So
all right,
is there
great.
any way to assist us?
Yeah, you bet. And I've got 60 seconds here, so I'm going to be real fast. So the recommendation for her would be 1 anti-aging healthy start pack and 2 bottles of selenium per 100 pounds of body weight per month. She needs to support and promote the structure and function of her liver. The selenium is going to do that. I would also have her take Prohoba Hepal, 2 bottles a month for 3 months. Prohoba Hepal, 2 bottles a month for 3 months. Now, and that's a really good, sound foundation medical nutrition program. Of course, eliminate the 10 bad foods. She's going to have to go to an herbalist and get an herbal tincture of Berberis vulgaris. Berberis vulgaris. Have her take a tablespoonful in a little bit of water every 15 minutes when she's passing a stone, and she will be greatly relieved. Casey, you're the greatest. Keep up the good work, and call anytime. Hour 2 coming up, folks. Stick around.